Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. You are about to embark on a tremendous journey to transform your mindset and unlock the unlimited potential of positive thinking. It starts right now. Let's go. If you have struggled to transform your thoughts and to remove those negative thought loops, you are not alone. I struggled with this for many years. And even after many years of practice, I thought I was thinking positive, but what I discovered was in the day-to-day practical thinking, I was still assigning negative meaning to my experience. It was the little thoughts like, I don't like that shirt, or I don't like the way that person speaks, or that course that I signed up. It wasn't as awesome as it could have been. It became especially problematic when I declared my intention to start my business. I was shocked by how many negative thoughts and limiting beliefs came up. It was so difficult to deal with that it was even crippling and prevented me from being successful in starting my business. Did you know that research suggests we have 60,000 thoughts a day? 75% of those are negative thoughts, and 90% of those 60,000 thoughts are repeated. That is a lot of negative thinking. From a psychological perspective, confirmation bias tells us that we will always find the evidence to prove the things we choose to believe, whether it's right or wrong, positive or negative. And this is important because our beliefs tend to be in our subconscious, which means below our conscious awareness, but they are the drivers of our thoughts. Cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, also tells us that we can change our life by changing our thoughts and beliefs because that changes our feelings and our behaviors, and therefore the results that we experience in our life. We can also look to the placebo effect for the evidence of how powerful our mind and our thoughts are. When research participants are given a sugar pill, they still experience the profound transformative power of a groundbreaking medication that heals their body, even though they didn't actually receive anything other than a sugar pill. Their thoughts and their beliefs and their expectations healed them. From a scientific perspective, quantum mechanics shows us that the power of focus and attention combined with expectation and perception is enough to determine what we will observe and experience. This is most famously demonstrated through the double slit experiment, where light behaves as both a particle and a wave, depending on whether or not it is observed. The Schrodinger's cat thought experiment presents to us a scenario where a cat is sealed in a box, and it can be simultaneously considered alive and dead at the same time, simultaneously. The cat's fate is defined by the observer's preconceived expectation of what they will find when the box is opened. And this is just the beginning of the psychological and scientific evidence that points to the power of positive thinking. From a spiritual perspective, it becomes even more important. Once we understand that we were created in the likeness of our Creator and therefore creators, we also know that we are creating and manifesting all the time. The challenge becomes when we are creating on autopilot, not fully realizing what we are creating. We want to become conscious of what we are creating so that we can create with intention. We don't want to create more pain and suffering in the world. We want to help end human suffering and bring about heaven on earth. Let's not forget that it's very easy for us to feel like I'm alone on this journey. I alone am the only one who struggles with negative thinking. The victim mindset can become a habit very quickly and very easily. But the truth is, most of us are experiencing very similar challenges at the exact same time. Most of us also have the same goals and desires. We want to be loved. We want to be healthy. We want to experience fulfillment, peace, joy, satisfaction. Most of us are good at our core, and oftentimes our behaviors and our actions are simply driven by the desire to not only survive, but maybe even thrive at some point in life. But oftentimes we inadvertently act from our fear, our trauma, and our unhealed wounds. It is not our intention to hurt others, but to protect ourselves and to prevent further pain. And this is often one of the many reasons why we can struggle with negative thought loops. So if we know it's extremely important to think positively, why is it so difficult? Oftentimes it can be helpful to understand why do we struggle with something before we move into the how, so that we can stop beating ourselves up and understand that we deserve grace and compassion for our experience. Negativity bias is a common human experience. Historically, it helped our ancestors survive when we had to become attuned to challenge and threat. Over time, it became a habit and our conditioning. And just like a path in the grass is easier to walk, so too are our well-worn neural pathways easy to default to. Basically, it means we have a habit of negative thinking, and it's very easy to fall into that habit. And all that means is we're just going to have to apply a little bit more effort to create the habit of positive thinking and finding that silver lining. It can be especially challenging when you're raised in an environment where it's common to complain, or it's even the cultural norm to point out all the different things that are going wrong. But aside from the neurobiology and the natural human condition, we're also under a lot of stress. Chronic stress, anxiety, depression, and fatigue can also cause difficulty in thinking positively. It can cause more negative thought loops. So we want to be on the lookout for distorted thinking. What does that look like? How do we spot it? It can look like catastrophizing, creating catastrophe where there really isn't any, black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking, and even just overgeneralization. Let's keep in mind that negative thinking, just like depression and anxiety, they point to an unmet need. It's a sign or a signal that we need something more in our lives, something is missing. And may I remind you, you deserve to have your needs met. It is no longer a superpower to ignore your needs or to forgo what you need to be happy and fulfilled in life. And that leads us to step number 1 in reprogramming our thoughts for positive thinking. Embrace your thoughts with love. No longer are we judging them, rejecting them, or beating ourselves up over them. They are signs and signals. They are helping you see where there is a gap that needs to be filled or a need that needs to be met. So we appreciate them. We are grateful for them. Notice your habit to distract yourself or run to social media to avoid the discomfort or the negative thinking. This only exacerbates the issue. Notice how often you binge on a Netflix series or overwork until you're burnt out. Acknowledge this is a social norm, but acknowledge that this is not good for you and make a commitment to putting down these habits. We also want to look at our expectations. If we have an expectation that things are always going to be good, or I'll never have a negative thought, or I want my life to be 99.9% positive, and when it's not, I am disappointed. It is because of the expectation. We want to acknowledge that life, just like a coin, has a positive side and a negative side. We won't always be in positive experiences and positive thoughts, and we want to make space for discomfort or negative thinking for a little bit to allow it to bring to us the signals that we need to work through something. And when we work through it, we will then be able to shift back into the positive experience and the positive thinking. But if we have an expectation we'll never have anything negative happen to us, we're going to be disappointed. It also puts us in resistance to what is. And as we know, what you resist persists. So we cannot be in resistance to our experience unless we want to perpetuate more of it. We want to learn to love what is. Embrace the negative thoughts, see the signs and signals they are bringing to you, and learn to stand in discomfort without running from it. I promise you, it'll move through faster if you don't distract yourself and just pay attention to it. Learn to be with them, to observe them in your body, to feel your body and the way your body is communicating with you, and then learn to understand what changes they are asking you to make. If you need more help in learning to love what is, check out the video link in the description, How Judgment Keeps You Stuck and 4 Steps to Learn to Love What Is. One of my favorite friends says, expectation is like premeditated resentment. You want to be careful to have proper expectation, otherwise it will lead to unhappiness and discomfort. Our mind is an amazing tool, and if we tell our mind to judge whether something is good or bad, it is constantly going to be labeling things. We want to refrain from that judgment and let what is just be what it is. We don't have to label it as good or bad. If we remember the universe is conspiring in our favor, most experiences are good. But we don't need to label them that, because when we label something good, that creates the opposite experience for things that are not so good or bad. We don't want to give the mind the task of labeling everything as positive or negative. It just is what it is, and it's beautiful, period. Step 2 is creating space in between your thoughts. If we're having 60,000 thoughts a day, that means they're moving very, very quickly. A lot of them are subconscious, which means below our conscious awareness. So we want to slow down our thoughts, become the observer and the watcher of our thoughts so that we can slow them down and create space between the thought and the meaning we assign to it. Very few of us were taught how to manage our thoughts. And when our thoughts run rampant without any type of cultivation or management, they can run away with us. It can be easy to believe that they define us or that we are somehow a part of them or they came from us. But science has yet to prove exactly where thoughts come from. They know that they come from outside of us. And so therefore they are not part of us and they do not define us, but they are within our control. They will come and we just have to catch them and replace them and acknowledge that's not mine. If you struggle to believe that your thoughts are not yours and they do not define you, ask yourself, who am I without the thoughts? Do I still exist without thought? And the answer is yes, of course you do. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness of your thoughts. You are the consciousness, the observer, the watcher. The way we think colors our world like glasses. And just like putting on a pair of glasses, we get to decide what glasses we wear by choosing what we think and what we believe. And that all starts with slowing down your thoughts and watching your thoughts. Remember that quantum mechanics tells us the sheer act of observation is enough to shift and change things. You do not have to buy into your thoughts. You get to choose whether or not you believe them. Separating ourselves from our thoughts is called cognitive diffusion. When we are attached to our thoughts, or defined by our thoughts, that is cognitive fusion. We are fusing to the thought. We want to defuse from the thought. We certainly don't want to get stuck to them, and they are sticky, kind of like Velcro. So let's start to look at our thoughts and not through them. Step number 3 is to name the thinker. I like to imagine I have, the little angel and demon sitting on my shoulder. I like to call mine the trauma demon. Other clients will call it Sassy Sally or Liar Larry. You can just call yours Bob. However you go about it, the goal is to separate yourself from the thinker. We want to remember that negative thoughts are kind of like bullies. And when those bully thoughts make us feel like crap, that is the distorted thinking. So we want to recognize the bully and put an end to his distorted thinking. You can recognize this by black and white thinking or all or nothing thinking, or if you just start to feel bad, because the brain has to match in chemistry the images, thoughts, and words that we give it. So when you think something negative, your body's going to be flooded with stress hormones, and that will make you feel tense or uptight or like crap. And so when you start to feel negatively, you know that you just had a negative thought, and that thought is a choice. And so you can go back, catch, and replace it. In acceptance and commitment therapy, they offer a few recommendations. 1, you can start to sing the thoughts in a funny voice. La, 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 la. Right? You are not so silly. Making fun of it, making it seem less heavy or dense can allow us to see that thinker as silly or a bully. Another exercise would be to write your thought, your bully thought, on an object. Maybe it's a pen or pencil, or maybe it's a rock, and you choose to consciously put that object down so that you no longer are carrying the weight or the burden of that negative thinking. A third strategy would be to repeat the phrase over and over and over and over and over again until it finally becomes so strange. Notice if you say the word shoe 1,000 times, by the time you get to 100, it's not even going to feel like the same word anymore. Sometimes that can desensitize the intensity that comes with those thoughts or words. Step 4 is look at the underlying beliefs or rules that are driving your thinking. We live in a very strict and rigid world today. Oftentimes we are told what we should and shouldn't do. We adopted rules and beliefs at a very early age before we were even aware that we had a choice. But I am here to tell you, don't let the world should all over you. Our beliefs are the foundation for our thoughts and for our lives. So we want to get really intimately familiar with what are your beliefs. What are the rules and beliefs that you have adopted from someone else that are creating these thoughts that make you unhappy, and struggle to think positively? Do you believe it's your responsibility to keep everyone happy? Do you believe your partner should put the toilet seat down? Do you believe everyone should share your political beliefs? Do you find yourself saying life should or shouldn't be this way? Then once you've identified your beliefs, ask yourself the question, how do I show up? How do I move through life? How do I experience life because of this belief? And notice the pain and suffering that is caused by that belief and those thoughts. Then the next step is to ask yourself, how would I show up or how would I experience life without this belief? Likely a much better, more positive experience. And then finally, ask yourself, what is the new opposite belief that I am ready to adopt now? Acknowledge that it is going to be a process of asking yourself to believe this new belief, practicing the new belief, insisting on believing the new belief. It's not going to feel comfortable or natural at first, but over time you will come to adopt this new belief and therefore more positive thinking and a better experience in life. Step number 5 is to send love to the thing that you are thinking negatively about. For example, if you walk into a store and you see a really hideous Hawaiian shirt and you say, oh, I hate that shirt. What's wrong with those people? Why would they design that? Notice that you are creating stress hormones in your body, and that shirt really does not have to impact you or affect your life. So instead of saying, I hate that shirt and going down the rabbit hole of how awful this shirt is, we can stop ourselves. We can start again and say, interesting Hawaiian shirt. Not for me, and just move on about our day. We don't have to have all of this energy exertion towards resisting the design of the shirt. Let's save our energy for producing and creating more beautiful experiences in life. A more challenging example would be a partner who always wants to argue with you. Instead of walking away and hemming and hawing at how terrible this person is, we can choose to send them love, choose to come from love and live through love and say, you know what? The divine created them that way. I honor their experience. What an amazing debater they were meant to be. Doesn't have to impact me. If you purchased a course or you took a class that you didn't like, instead of spending the entire quarter thinking about how terrible this teacher is and how they could have done this course so much better, we can acknowledge the universe is always working in my favor. Something about this experience is supportive to me. I acknowledge that I am right where I need to be, and I embrace this experience with love regardless. Ask, what is the universe trying to teach me? Because there is always a benefit in every experience. The key to remember is the universe is always speaking to us, not just through our thoughts, but also through the way we feel, through our emotions. And when we give our attention so strongly to a negative experience, we are creating more of the same. And this is why we want to choose what thoughts and emotions we amplify. Step 6 is to catch and replace. We want to start to notice the negative thoughts and replace them with the positive ones, creating new neural pathways. This is the reprogramming. Have you ever noticed if someone tells you not to think of a pink elephant, the very first thing you do is think of a pink elephant? It's just like telling a child not to touch a hot stove. All they can think about is touching the hot stove. So instead of saying, don't think negatively, don't think negative thoughts, we have to tell ourselves what to think. In Philippians 4:8, the suggestion is to only think of positive things. Whatever is true, honest, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. Things of virtue and worthy of praise. We also know through the law of attraction that we need to think about what we do want to create and not what we don't want. We want to think about how far have I come? How much have I accomplished? Give yourself a pat on the back for the things you have overcome so far. What are you grateful for? What do you want to create? What does your dream life look like? What does it feel like to be kissed and hugged by the love of your life? Abraham Hicks suggests that you hold the feeling of experiencing your dreams and desires for at least 17 seconds. This is not only how we reprogram our thoughts for positive thinking, but also create the life of our dreams. So start a ritual to start and end your day. Number 1, gratitude journaling. Everyone talks about that. But number 2, take stock of the things that you accomplished the day before or the day of. Really take time to give yourself credit for the things that you moved through, the things that you did better. And number 3, set goals. Set goals for the day or the next day so that you have something to look back on and say, I accomplished that goal. Good job. Tip number 7 is a packed one. Remember the role that your body plays in your thought life. The gut brain is a real thing, and it plays a significant role in the thoughts that we receive. Remember, the body keeps the score. So exercise, grounding, and nutrition play a significant role in our experience of life. We also want to remember that trauma lives in the body, and unhealed trauma and wounds will create negative thought loops because it changes the brain. But neuroplasticity tells us we can heal. If you have trauma, you'll need to utilize somatic healing therapies like trauma spotting. This will help to remove the negative thought loops and help give you a new perspective of not only your past, but your present and your future. Somatic healing helps us shift our perspective so that we can more easily see the silver lining. Remember, when we are activated, stuck in hypervigilance, the body is not able to heal or grow or repair. This is very stressful for the body and the brain and creates more stress that will create more negative thought loops. So remember, heal your trauma, nourish your body, and make sure you get at least 8 hours of sleep. But you may even need more if you've been living in hypervigilance for a long time. Trauma is no longer a rare experience, but more so a common human condition these days. If you are unsure if you have experienced trauma or you're exhibiting trauma responses, check out the video link below, 21 signs you have unhealed trauma, or reach out to me for a trauma spotting session. Once we have healed our trauma and our body, we want to focus on neural pathway reprogramming. Like I said, the path that has been walked 1,000 times is easier to walk. So too is a neural pathway or a thought habit easier to think. My favorite person to learn this from is Dr. Carolyn Leaf and her book, Switch On Your Brain. The steps she offers in the book are: number 1, gather your thoughts or become the observer of your thoughts, like we have talked about. Number 2, journal and reflect on your thoughts. Understand where did they come from and why do we think them. Number 3, revisit the new dimensions of them, which means find new perspective. Look for the silver lining, see them in a more positive light. And number 4, choose new belief. Final tip as it relates to the body is to remember the mind is not meant to lead, the heart is. We know through Heart Math Institute that by focusing on our heart, breathing in and out of our heart, and bringing our attention to our body, the heart will start to create heart coherence and regulate the mind. So it will be less difficult for you to manage your thoughts if you create heart coherence by focusing on your heart. The 8th tip is to decide and declare. Remember that you are a powerful creator. You have the authority in your life to say, I am no longer going to have this experience. Declare your intention to shift your thought life. Make the statement, I no longer have space for negative thinking in my life. I declare only positive thinking in my life now. I simply decide to choose love and will only think, act, and feel with love. Never forget, you get to choose who you want to be. The 9th tip is to cultivate an intimate and personal relationship with your creator. Let's remember, the body is the temple. The breath of life courses through you. You could not be more closely connected to the divine than you are in each and every breath and every moment. The creator of the universe lives inside of you, and you were declared to be the most favored creation on planet Earth. When we remember our source and we remember how precious we are, who could have anything but positive thoughts? When we look at what makes us unhappy, it is the feeling of lack. It is the lack of love, the lack of support, the lack of safety, the lack of peace. And we want to remember that these are just illusions. Yes, while the world in front of us may seemingly be presenting the evidence that we are somehow in need, the truth is what we see in front of us today is just an echo of what was created by our past beliefs and our past thoughts. Now, as we step into positive thinking and we choose to remember that we are one with the creator of the universe, which means that infinite potential is available to us, we can start to think positively. When we remember that we create a beautiful world through our positive thoughts and we get to choose how we perceive and think about our world, there is nothing preventing us from creating a life of fulfillment and love and joy and peace. So remember, we are on a journey back to oneness and wholeness and completion with our Creator. What more could we ask for? As you start to step into mastery and power over your thoughts, you take back the power over your life. You get to create everything you've ever dreamed. And if you're feeling stuck in life and you need help getting unstuck, check out this video, 10 tips on how to get unstuck. Namaste, my friends. I love you.